Hey everyone, it's Sam here, Gladiator of Love, and I help you fall in love with yourself on a deeper level because from that place miracles can happen. And I've come on to talk about my love for Paulo Coelho. It's come up a bit in my Facebook group, and I said I was do a live about my favourite Paulo Coelho books. And it's not the obvious one. It's not the one that everybody thinks. We all know The Alchemist. Majority of people, when they think Paulo Coelho, they think The Alchemist. Yeah, love it. Love that book. I actually love all of his books. And there's only one book of his so far that I haven't got, and that is the latest one. It's The Spy, which is about Mata Hari. I'm just going to go through some of the titles. I've got a whole shelf of his there. I'm going to tell you about my favourite books of his and why. And I really love Paulo Coelho's writing because of the way he steps into the character. The majority of his books are actually true stories. A lot of people don't realise that they're taken from actual stories. And I love the way he steps into the character and tells the story from their perspective. So it's like you're in that person, you're not viewing them. Even when he writes as the female character, it's really, really beautiful. So I'm going to turn the camera around and just point to some of my... See, that's all of the books there. So we've got The Alchemist, which is the obvious one, right? Valkyries, beautiful, amazing story. That's a true story that's told about himself when he's looking for the Valkyries, which are some bikers in the desert. That's actually true. The Pilgrimage, which is his story of walking the road to Santiago. He actually wrote that before he wrote The Alchemist. He didn't go down too well, and he wrote The Alchemist, and then afterwards that got brought out as a book because that was originally turned down by publishers. These two are not true stories. They're beautiful, and that one that could have elements in truth. It makes me feel like he probably would have heard that story and it's turned it into a book. Zahir, that's probably, I'd say, like my third favourite. I've got two favourites, and I would say that as my third. And that's written with him as the main character, and that's got a lot of truth in it, which I think he's sort of put other parts in it to embolden the story. But that's about him on the hunt for his wife that disappears. And we've got The Witch of Portobello, which I have actually got signed by him because I was fortunate to meet him 10 years ago. Breeder. It's probably the only one that I've only read once, actually, this one. The Winner Stands Alone. That is a good story. Aleph, that again is a true story, and that is about him doing the on the train on the Siberian Express. Amazing. So my two favourite ones are this one, Veronica Decides to Die, and this one, 11 Minutes. My two absolute favourite stories. Just turn the camera back round. So the reason I love these two stories, they are both true, absolutely true stories, and he tells them from the perspective that the lead character in both of them is a woman. Veronica Decides to Die is about a young woman who lives in Slovenia, and by all accounts she's like popular and got a good job and all of that, but she actually just doesn't want to live anymore, and she decides to take her own life, and she wakes up a few days later in a mental institution, locked away. And the story he tells of living in this asylum, being a sane person surrounded by all these people, is amazing, because he pulls on his own experience of when he was institutionalized by his parents 4 times as a teenager, because they thought he was a crazy person because he wanted to be a writer, and they just kept getting him locked up and he would escape. So he tells the story, her story, but with all this experience of what he knows, what it's like to be in there. And it's amazing. It's such an incredible book, and I love it. And the first time I read it in like 3 days because it was so good. And I've read it several times over. So I said my connection is weak. And the other book, which I absolutely love, is 11 Minutes. 11 Minutes is just an amazing story. And I think it's probably the one that is least spoken about, but is incredible. And again, it's a true story. And it's about a young woman called Maria. Her name's Maria. And she's from Brazil, and she lives in like a little farming town, and she's quite poor and whatever. And she's wondering how she will get to travel the world. And she has offered a job. She's in a local bar, and she's offered a job by someone from Switzerland who says they're from the Switzerland Tourist Board, and they could get her a job in the like hospitality industry. So she moves to Geneva, and actually she ends up working as a prostitute, which she wasn't expecting. And the story is about her life, living as that person, and like the realization that she comes to about love and sex. And it's just such a powerful story, especially about the focus on like love and inner love and true love, and like what she does. And the reason it's called 11 Minutes is because she realizes after a while that every time she's with a client, that the 11 minutes is the actual length of time for the sexual act, even like when she's with them for an hour. And it's just such a beautifully written story from that perspective of the job that she's doing. So I always say to people, read that one, because it's so sort of underplayed by him, and by sort of like critics in general. So 11 Minutes is my favourite, followed very closely by Veronica Decides to Die. The 2 least spoken about books by Paulo Coelho, for sure. But I would recommend any of his books, but those 2 are my absolute favourite ones. And the other reason I love his books is they've all got like a theme, an overarching sort of theme and story, and a learning that you get from each one of them. And even though the ones that, that are not factual. So that is you can tell I'm very passionate when I talk about Paulo Coelho. And I was very, very fortunate to meet him 10 years ago at a signing. It was for a small number of people. And he sent me a birthday card as well, which is another story, because explaining that is a whole nother live. So thank you for being on here, and let me know in the comments about if you've read anything by Paulo Coelho, or you read The Alchemist and what you think about that, or if you've read any of his other books. And let me know what you think about that. So have a wonderful day. And of course, if you want to join my Facebook group, The Path to Self-Love, you can find that in the search on Facebook, The Path to Self-Love, and come on over and join the party of love. All right, have a good day. Bye.